Zest is in, where resilience begins, not fixing the cracks, letting the light in.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Zest is In with me, Shel Marie, the podcast that'll take you on a journey from the hustle to the harmony, fueling your passion whilst finding your peace. Today, we're diving very deeply into a powerful and timely conversation on the nervous system, safety and regulation, and what it truly means to feel emotionally safe, embodied and connected to the modern world. We'll be exploring emotional safety, self-regulation, healing, embodied well-being, as these are not just concepts, but lived experiences. Because when we understand our nervous system, we don't just cope better, we lead better, we love better, we parent better, and we live more consciously. I'm truly honored to welcome an extraordinary panel of heart-led leaders, change makers, and experts today. But before I introduce them, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge someone's special day today, and that is one of our speakers, known as Pruitt. It is his birthday, so I just want to say thank you so much for showing up today, for serving and supporting others. That generosity speaks volumes, and we truly appreciate you being a powerful contribution to today's panel discussion. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And with that in mind, he is a metaphysical guide, transformational facilitator, narrative healer, and international speaker who has worked to transform the hearts and minds of millions worldwide. So we are very happy to have him today. And equally, we have the incredible Francesca Pezzino. She is a certified parenting life coach, childminder, and devoted mother, and much, much more, whose mission is to help children grow up to feel truly loved, seen, and heard. Then we have the truly inspiring Tanya Ward, a transformational coach for women 40 plus, as well as an energy healer and the creator of Ignite Your Spirit method, empowering women to reconnect to their inner fire. Together, we will explore how safety lives in the body, how deregulation impacts our relationships, parenting and leadership, and how we can cultivate more calm, clarity, and conscious connection in everyday life. I know I say this often, but if you feel called, please help support and amplify these incredible voices today by sharing some love. It costs you absolutely nothing, but shares this episode with many more hearts and minds, and it costs you absolutely nothing. So thank you. Enough of me talking. Let's now. Let's now see our fabulous guests and have this incredible conversation. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Beautiful. So I think something that just, I believe, like encompasses all of it, because without this word, and even the word alone can actually trigger many feelings in people. Safety. What does safety mean to you? Because I think that is like the overarching theme really of what we're discussing today, because that's what really impacts our nervous system. So if anyone feels free to want to express first, feel free.
Safety for me is the awareness that I can stand in the midst of any experience and hold the higher power of my understanding that I call God, right? But for those that don't believe in a higher power, the principles, right? Integrity or peace or nurturance. I can honor and hold that spiritual entity, identity, and the fear without collapsing when no help is available, right? So for me, the principle that is associated with that is inner authority. Safety for me is inner authority, not me asking. And so many times people will invite this narrative around, will this be a safe space? And I think early on I used to say, oh, absolutely. Then after a while I started challenging it, lovingly, but to say, well, it's safe because you choose it to be so.
Oh, yes.
I Right, I can say it's a safe space, but that doesn't mean that that's your experience. So if your nervous system is regulated, you never need to ask that because you are the safe space. And again, that means that you can move into any environment and hold whatever the fear is and whatever you believe is your truth without collapsing when there's no help or support available.
Ay, ay, ay. What makes me think straight away is otherwise, yeah, we're putting people on pillars, aren't we? To, oh, but you said it was going to be safe. No, take back that ownership. Thank you. Anyone else that'd like to add to that? I can see Tanya's really like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Robert, I think you hit it right on the head. You've touched so many parts of that. And it's that inner authority. It's when you are taking care of yourself and your needs and paying attention to what you need first before entering into any space in any conversation, and really listening to your inner authority of, is this good for me? Is this not good for me? And taking action on that, and unapologetically, if it's not the right thing, of finding that graceful way of, no, that's not for me, and being okay with it. And I think there's a lot of work that if you're not already regulated in your nervous system, and which so many of us aren't, because there's been so much trauma, and whether that's micro trauma or big traumas, and we're never taught to really regulate our nervous systems from a young age. And I love that as we're coming into this newer consciousness, this higher consciousness, that we're actually teaching the younger generations by modeling it's okay to take care of ourselves. It's okay to take that rest, whatever that looks like. So definitely safety starts from within, and being in that safe place to be able to fully express my highest expression of who I am, and being able to extend that out in whatever setting I'm in.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tanya. Francesca?
It was beautifully said, and I love these conversations because of the angles that we managed to see of the same things. And what comes to me first to my mind is safety, is the ability of, in any situation, the ability of saying, to stop and think and say, what is my best next move? That comes from the balance that you have when you enter the situation and considers where you are going. There is a lot around it. But if in a situation I'm able to pause and think, what is my best next move? And every time is a different thing, because every situation is different, because we are all different. So my next move is nobody else's best move. And in this second, probably it's not the best move that is in 5 seconds. But if I'm able to pause and think, what is my best next move? It means I have a sense of safe, that I'm going towards safety, and I'm safe enough to pause and ask myself.
Absolutely. And I think the word pause alone holds a lot of significance, because I think sometimes, like, this is my perspective of what I used to believe it was, of pause is like quite a quick thing, and it really isn't sometimes, like, particularly when those life altering changes come in. And I think when we're doing the inner healing, we're doing the work, and it's kind of like generally within our control. I think we're kind of like, yeah, I got this under control. And then I think, life naturally presents us with these times where things will come in that so often, and it's not even to do with us. It could be an external person as well, or an external experience in the world. And I think that's when you, again, give yourself love and grace, but I think you really check in with your nervous system, because we can have the response and know what to do, and then there's like it happening now, and like, okay, what do I do? So I think the pause is super important, and for me personally, I always felt like I had to like find the solution straight away. And I think we really don't need to sometimes. Sometimes we actually need to settle our body, our mind, and integrate what is happening, and then allow.
Yes. Yeah. The pause for me allows things energetically to settle.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about coherence is that it allows all the parts to come together. Right? And an activated nervous system, I think Tanya said, because of trauma and there being widely held or, long-lasting experiences, let me personalize it, learned that a low level of activation, or believed that a low level of activation was the same as harmony, peace, balance, being settled, returning to center. And it wasn't. It was just a palatable and manageable level of fear-based existence. So I was still in survival mode. And the idea of pausing, for me, felt triggering, because the activated aspect, right, that part of our system that says, let's mobilize, we tend to think of it in terms of fight or flight. Sometimes freeze is incorporated. But one of the other aspects of that sympathetic nervous system is that it mobilizes. And that's where I would hear myself say things like, I need to figure it out, or I got to get this done, or there's so many things that are on the to-do list. How can I pause? And I believe, Tanya, you said it earlier, right? At a younger age, we used to do this, but we moved away from, or we were never taught how to self-soothe. But the interesting thing is babies already know, unless there is some chemical malady in their makeup, we know how to self-soothe. Animals know how to self-soothe through licking and cozying up to something. And I think a lot of that was interrupted, but it wasn't replaced.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? So we stay active, and then somebody says, chill, pause, take a breath. And you're like, okay, well, I took a breath, but I don't have time to breathe because, and I'll say this and then, I'm complete. That nervous system, the activated system for me is threat management. It's looking for what can go wrong, and it builds systems to address the possibility of threat. But when I move into the parasympathetic and I'm at peace and I'm calm and I'm regulated, then that's the meaning maker. That's the aspect that says, not how do I define it, but again, how does the principle define it? How does the higher power of my understanding assign meaning that is, not something that I think will align with the outcome that I desire. And the pause allows all the thoughts, all the feelings to settle. And then from that settled, grounded space, we move. Because clarity only exists when we're in that settled pause space. But again, if I've been active for so long and my family is active and my friends are active, and then we use terms like we got to hustle and grind, when do I ever learn that it is okay to pause? Right? So, yeah, the pause is a moment where I get to settle.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really great. If I can add something into that, I am a big proponent of the pause in the moment of stress and taking that pause in through the day. But what I find too is it's the pre-work that we do or that we don't do that then sets us up for success in that pause, right? So just like any other muscle, any other skill, if we're not practicing that regulation in the moment, everything could fall into that crisis mode, into the fully activated system. Whereas if we're doing these little things as practices and as a way of life, then that pause, we don't have to think about it so much. It just becomes something that we naturally do that I think is equally important.
Absolutely. I really want to add on what both of you have just said, but before that, obviously, I just want to acknowledge that Pamela is here, our other speaker.
Hello.
She's a former nurse, CEO, and the founder of Empowering Women Wellness Solutions, supporting holistic health, resilience, and empowerment. Welcome, Pamela. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you. So we just feel free to join the conversation when you feel called. Just to add to what Pruitt and Tanya just expressed, I really gosh, it's gone out my head now. Sorry.
Well, I am going to add something.
Go, Francesca,
then
go.
Till it comes back to you. that I just wanted to say that this safe feeling that we are talking about, sometimes it's always a state of us inside that if we, as Tanya said, we practice it, when around us the situation is not safe, we manage to feel safe, to be safe in ourselves. And that's what we need to aim. We can't be detached from what is around us, from our experience before, that is traumatic or not. Because anyway, traumatic or not, we have an experience that makes us what we are today and makes us act in a situation in a certain way. It's what we are, it's our character, it's our life. So we all act in different ways in any situation. But the important thing is that we're able to act and not react in the situation. And that's when inside we are able to pause, even just for a second, because there are situations in which we don't have much time to pause. If it's a dangerous situation, you need to be able to, because you did it before, look around and pause 3 seconds and think, what's next? But you need to be able to sit with yourself, assess the situation very quickly, and then make a move acting without reacting. And that's the safe inside. It's not the safe of the situation. The situation could be very unsafe. But if you manage to keep safe yourself, you manage to go to safety.
I would like to add to that.
Yeah.
Hi. So I'm a nurse practitioner, and when COVID occurred, we don't always like to remember that date, but I appreciate what you're saying, and that is true. I think the nurses who are a little bit more experienced had to teach the younger nurses how to pause, because it was critical, right? With the masks, with just all the activity, the fear. So yes, the pause, I think, really stabilized for the younger nurses. And then we worked 12 hours. So then it was amazing that we would take a 15-minute break. They didn't want us to leave the floor, but we did. And we went and we had this little lavender infuser, I guess, took deep breaths, and we did just a quiet meditation to reset. It was huge. So it was amazing. But I would say after about the first month, then the new nurses then learned how to pause just to get through the day. And it's still key to us now because medicine is so stressful. So I just wanted to share that.
Wow. And I remembered, thank you for all sharing that, because I remembered what I was going to say, and it's a combination of all of what you've all expressed. And what it is even with you, Pamela, sharing about teaching it just happened that you said the younger nurses, and I know you don't necessarily always mean age, but maybe the inexperienced.
Less experience.
Yes, yeah. No, but actually there's a reason why I picked up on that in particular, because as Pruitt so powerfully highlighted, we come self-regulating. So it's just interesting that we come ready and we know how to do this, and something in between which we know happens, and then we have to relearn it. And it's just, again, it's not pointing any fingers, and it's not saying that every parent, anyone that's involved in a child's life, even teacher, anything. But it's just very interesting. What I would love your takes on is, I feel like maybe it's the narratives and the experience we had when maybe we went to self-regulate, and it was kind of pressure placed on us, or something said to us, or a certain feeling we felt that maybe made us feel, okay, it's not safe to do this. Again, this is speaking very You know, it's not one
Yes.
example, but it's just interesting that all of us have kind of come to the same conclusion, but we've all had very different lived experiences. I just think that's just something I thought when I heard it.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can, because of my experience and my love, especially of children, on top of above the experience. But what I see and what I hear is that what we do mainly with children when they have an emotion, feeling, we tend to shush it.
Yeah.
You are okay. Even just when we tell
Even in a loving way.
they fall, they fall and they hurt their knee and they start crying. We tell them you are okay. Well, they are not. They are not in that moment. It doesn't mean they won't be, but we need to acknowledge how they feel in that moment. Otherwise, they will grow up and become adults who shush their own emotions, and they don't know how to deal with the emotion. So instead of saying you are okay, you need to kneel down, get close to them and say, oh, it hurts. I can see it hurts. Show me where it hurts. And this already takes their value into consideration, and they usually calm down, unless they are really super duper hurt and you need to take them to hospital. But this, when you tell them, I can see how you feel, and I'm listening to how you feel, then they calm down, and then you can redirect them. Do you want a hug? Do you want a cuddle? Shall we get some ice? And usually they just pick themselves and go to play, because it wasn't much. But they need to be told what you feel is valuable and true, because what each of us feels is always true. We cannot share it with someone else. We cannot think that, okay, it's nothing, come on. But for the person who is feeling the feeling is true, always. No one can tell you that what you feel is wrong. No one can. And this is what we should raise our children. And the aim is to make them resilient, not to make them that they are too concentrated on what they feel and everything goes around what you feel, because that's the other extreme.
Yeah, because they could stick to that as well and be like, oh, this feels nice. So we have to be very mindful.
Yes, but you need the stage of what you feel is true and I'm listening. Otherwise, you teach children to shush their feeling.
I would like to add to that, if I can. So I think there's so many layers that go into that deprogramming, like you were saying, Shel, and the conditioning, and even outside of the parental units or the family units of what's happening within there. And even if there's a child who's in the most perfect situation with the most regulated parents, that there's this other layer of culture and society that is coming into that. And so it's not just that one piece that we take in as children, and as we learn by the way other people are modeling that, oh, you have to hustle, don't take a break, to be successful, this is what it means. To be loved and accepted, this is what that means. And so we tend to have all of these layers and all of these different ingredients that come into that moving away from that innate regulated state into something else. And I think the more that once again that we're talking about this and we're sharing this, and especially with the younger generations, that they can start to put these things into place and learning how to use those tools, like Francesca was saying, of accepting and acknowledging those feelings, and really starting to break a lot of those patterns that are occurring in families and society, that, you know, making that progression of change.
Absolutely.
Could I add something, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have one daughter. Teenagehood is always a challenge, but teaching them at any age, self-trust really is a great habit. So when you can teach them, you know, to, you're right, acknowledge and share when they feel safe with someone, that is building their self-trust for their whole life. So I found that very key when my daughter was little. So, and really in working with patients also.
Yeah. Would you say that, because I agree, you know, the the feelings we feel are real, absolutely, 100%. But I also think sometimes we need to go back to ourselves with that, because I think sometimes, like when we just spoke about when you kind of receive that attention for certain things, I think sometimes we become versions based on the external influence of others as well. So I think equally, like I remember always, you're too sensitive, you're too sensitive, you're too sensitive, and I slowly shut down. And even now, when I think I'm really expressing myself and really allowing myself to feel, I also know the difference between when it's controlled and when it's uncontrollable. And often the uncontrollable, which societal, if not saying even anyone sees it, but we've been programmed is too much, is when I know I'm really pulling that root up and releasing it. And it's just so interesting that even though I think I'm, say, crying, for example, crying and letting it out, I'm not still truly crying. But when it's uncontrollable, oh, I'm crying. And so much comes up in my mind of like, enough now, and it goes back to, was that ever really my own thoughts? Or was that something that maybe was kind of said to me because it was uncomfortable for someone else to experience that?
Yeah. And one of the things I offer, I have twin boys that are 22, but they were born at 26 weeks. So, the interaction in the NICU was a wonderful one. And one of my most recent conversations with them that they prompted was around too much. Yeah. So here's my understanding, and I offer it as information, not instruction. When someone says you're too much of anything, for me, the metaphysical understanding, the regulated nervous system understanding is who you are being exceeds my capacity to hold it.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
So now I don't have to take aught against my brother or my sister. I just understand they're at their regulation limit. Plain and simple. Yeah. Got it. There is no such thing as I'm too much. It's if you are a 1 liter container and I'm a 10-liter container and I'm pouring, after 1 liter, it's going to be too much.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that for me allows me to regulate, because part of this conversation, we can utilize tapping, we can utilize, mudras, we can utilize breathing and breath work and all of these wonderful techniques. But more often than not, in my experience, people are using to get. Let me use this to get, create, control some outcome or experience, rather than recognizing that the tool that we use is a way to function internally with the primary benefit being regulation, not to get there, because regulation is a no get there. It's not a place. It's an experience, right? So it's like when people pray. I kept praying, but I didn't. Nothing's changed.
Why did they not answer?
It's like, hello, universe, spirit, God, somebody. And I asked you repeatedly.
You're listening.
Clearly, you didn't get it. So let me send smoke signals in a text message. And what I found was, okay, that is me attempting to control. That is the aspect of that, wonderful regulated or unregulated nervous system that is trying to manage this external threat by using the tool of prayer. So I'm spiritualizing a tool. I'm spiritualizing even taking a nap. All right, I'll take a 5-minute power nap. How do you know it's going to be 5 minutes? Versus I'm going to take a nap. So the minute I place a condition on something, I've shifted from regulated to unregulated, but it may be at a level that is so imperceptible that it lies to me, or I lie to myself about what I'm actually experiencing. So that too much, Luther Vandross had a song that said, never too much, right? It's like saying there's too much love. How are you going to be too much of a creative? How are you going to be too much of somebody that feels, because we don't understand that empaths, or some people, based on how their zodiacal signs match up, really do feel a thing in a powerful way. It is only too much because who I am exceeds your capacity to hold me, at least in that moment. And that makes all the difference for the one who is regulated. And if you noticed, in that moment, all I'm doing is identifying and calling it what it is. And I don't have to use any tools. I didn't have to take a breath. I didn't have to say a prayer. I didn't have to ohm. I didn't have to chant. And there's nothing inherently wrong with those, but I'm not using technology to manipulate an outcome. I'm going within to say, I choose to hold on to the regulation, or I choose regulation because what I understand is that's their experience. And that gets to be true for them, but I don't need to give that authority, right? So.
Wow. And even just that alone, that powerful insight, that powerful insight, I just feel like you've literally taken something that I kind of knew, but I couldn't physically put into words, you know? So, because again, we so much inwards about us, but yeah, sometimes we have to be able to know beyond us in order to understand the whole situation. So sorry to have interrupted, Francesca, please. But I just was like, woo!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, what Pruitt is saying is so beautifully saying. And for me, the image that comes is just slightly different, and is if I throw a ball always in the same way, it depends how strong I'm throwing. To say how strong I'm throwing the ball, it depends from what is around me. Because if I throw the ball always in the same way and I have a wall at 20 centimeters, the strength with which the ball hits the wall is probably very strong. If I have a wall that is a 5 meters distance, the ball is going to hit the wall with a very lower strength, but I'm throwing it always in the same way. The thing is that the perception that we have of ourselves, we get it from the bouncing of the ball that we have around us. If there is emptiness around us, we don't have perception of ourselves because we don't have anything, nothing we do gets a response. If you do something in the emptiness, you don't get a response and you don't know what you're doing. But because you have walls around you, you have people around you, you do the same thing in a group of people and you feel in a certain way. You do the same thing in another group of people, and the response you get and the feeling, the perception of yourself that you get is different. But if you are regulated, if you are in balance, you know who you are always, and you don't feel too much in a place, as Pruitt said, and you don't feel not enough in another one. But this is how we grow. There are families for which we are never enough, and there are families for which we are too much, and we are families for which we are what we need to be. Families, and as Tanya said, it's not just the family, but we start in a family. That's the smallest group we experience. And then it becomes the friends, and then it becomes the office or the work or the friends, and it becomes bigger and bigger. And that's why it's so important to be self-regulated. Otherwise, we don't know who we are, and we sway according to what is around us, and that's not how we should be.
Wow. And I something that came to my mind straight away was you can adapt it as well, whether that's a positive or a negative. So being mindful of that, of like when you just the tangible example of the wall is like, that might feel too much, that might feel not enough, but we actually have the power in the self-regulation to adapt to that, and then allow, whether we are overcompensating, which is not self-regulated, I guess, because we're trying to fill space or be a bit of a chameleon and adapt, or we can the other way of, okay, I feel this now, it's interesting, I feel like I'm still showing up the same, and just be conscious of it, just observe it, rather than it be like something to do personally to you. Like what you said, you in one setting you could feel like you're too much, and then another you could feel not enough, but that usually is the perception of like where you are and how, like back to the empath, how you feel which is very internal. Other people are not going to know you're feeling that, but you feel it. You feel it so strongly, some people. I know I do. But there's so much power in like, okay, actually, I'm not going to be unkind to myself. I'm not going to judge myself in this situation because I have shown up the way I know is how I wanted to show up. And if that's too much for this environment or too little, or, you know, actually ease and flow. It doesn't have to always be one or the other. Just know that you showed up in your fullest version and still respectful of the others in that environment as well.
If you've ever had the, today I'm 59, so I've seen enough technology change. Remember the 3-phase light bulbs? You could turn them to go to a quarter and then a half and then full. The light bulb still is true to what it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's just meeting people. If all you can handle is a quarter of me, I'm still true to who I am, but I don't need to force anything or be anything more than a quarter of myself in your experience. Because this is all that you can handle. To offer more is to impose, which would be unloving.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Then I go into another experience and they're like, oh, we can do 50. So you click it, now I'm at 50 with you. I'm still true to who I am. I'm still the light in the space. It's not diminished in any way. It is just simply recognizing that meeting people where they are isn't about seeing their qualities as less than. It's about recognizing my capacity and knowing how much to offer in a particular moment. That for me is how I hear the adaptation.
Absolutely.
I have something to say too. With that, I love this conversation. Thank you. I just am grateful to be here. I also starting my day, or I don't know, with chaos in nursing and in life, it's when I set my mindset or my inner heart to meet all with peace, love, and joy. I go out that way. Whether they flip the switch or whether they close the curtain, I'm okay with that too. But it takes you a while to get there to self-regulate. So the light bulb example, thank you. I can share that with many, many people. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. So many beautiful examples. Wow. But yeah, when you, this is for anyone listening and all your podcasts, but really go back and listen to some of these episodes, because I feel like sometimes the most complex understanding sometimes, and they can be put like, I just feel like it's not simple, it's very, very in-depth what you've shared, but just that visual that we can all relate to, whether you've seen that or not, you can understand it. It is just, I think it's incredible. And even the wall, all the different examples, and I really appreciate you all, and this is such a, as I knew it would be, a powerful conversation. I'm so happy you all showed up today. Thank you. Tanya, is there anything you want to add to that?
What was coming up for me in that was that as we self-regulate and we then come into experience with others, that we're helping to regulate that space.
Yeah.
So the best thing that, even though you don't think that you're having an impact on somebody, but showing up in your most regulated self and staying true to your light and whatever frequency or hot or volume, like Pruitt said, was, as long as you're staying in that, is that you're helping the other regulate as well. So when you're in that higher frequency, that you have that effect of everything around you. And we're all responsible for the group energy of whatever that group is and what we're bringing to it. So if we're bringing to it a sense of calm and that inner authority, then it gives permission for others to do that same thing of, he does it, he's doing this, that's okay, that's a thing, right? And so it starts that ripple effect where I think we can really impact those around us in a positive way.
Absolutely. What I straight away thought of as well was Pam talking about COVID just as another opposite example, not opposite, but you know what I mean? It's a very, very vulnerable environment that you I don't know if you're still working now or you have worked in, Pamela, but for example, even if you are that vibrant, you're that energetic, you know, you love being in that real high frequency, not saying that the other behaviorisms aren't, but you know your kind of regulated frequency. But equally, if you turned up in that situation and you're like, hi everyone, again, there's bringing love, joy, and light, but being mindful, taking responsibility, as you so wisely mentioned, Tanya, about the others around you in that environment. And that, I think, is when you, again, are self-regulating, because you come out of that, it's about me, because you should show up how you want to show up, but equally be mindful of the environment and how others are feeling in that environment. And that is the act, going back to what Pruitt expressed, of love. Because sometimes love isn't your full brightest bulb in certain situations, because that doesn't empower and make others feel like it. Equally, that doesn't mean we diminish and we lower ourselves. It depends on the environment. But I think, like, around particularly traumatic times, that you just have to have a time and a place for when you are choosing to do that different variation and percentage of your vibrancy and your what you want to give to the world.
I would offer oh, please go.
No, please.
Yeah, I was going to say briefly, I think when we are regulated and not choosing to control how we express it, we automatically meet people where they are.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, that's an intuitive response, that you're coming in and instead of walking into the meditation room and hello everybody, right? You're reading the room of this is how I can enter this space, and this is what it is. And you, like I had said earlier, the more that you're doing that on your own, and you're doing that work internally and really tapping into that inner authority, the more you can have that intuitive in-tuneness of meeting situations and what's needed, and you don't even have to think about it.
And I think this ties very beautifully what, Shel, you were saying about being an empath. Being an empath can be great. It's an ability, but as always, it's what we do with the ability.
Yeah.
Because if you are an empath, and it means that you feel, let's call it the mood, it's a very simplistic word, of the room you enter. But if you get overwhelmed, it's not good to be an empath, because you just get overwhelmed and you can't act. You just react, or you need to run away sometimes. Or you get hyper because of the energy that you feel, and maybe it's not the right place to be hyper in that moment despite the energy. So being an empath is great if you know what to do. So you need to be able to be regulated. So you need to be able to enter in the room where there is meditation and pause again and feel the energy. And then you just go with the flow. You don't even need to think. You're just feeling what the situation is, what the energy is, and you manage to get into the energy, going around the energy of the others. Yeah. This is being a great empath. And these, we when we are children, babies, we are so empathic. Empathy is all we have when we are born. We can't understand words, we can't understand images, we understand a bit smells, but we are learning. We are completely feelings. We are everything that we feel, like feelings, emotional sensation, is all we have. And then we forget, because we are not taught, listen. And we can do this playfully. When you are around with your children, say, what do you think is going on there? When someone is arguing on the bus, or they raise their voice, why do we always pretend not to listen? We need to learn, what do you think happened? And play it. Or maybe they are arguing because they want out. She wants to go out for dinner and he wants to go to the cinema, and they can't find an agreement.
Normalize it.
Just
the unknown for a child of like, okay, everyone just pretend this isn't happening, is like the child's gone into overdrive now of like, can no one else see this? Like, whereas and then just normalize it. Yeah,
and also that teaches you that it can happen that you are in a situation where you don't know exactly what is going on, but you can feel if you need to move away or not. Is it really dangerous, this situation that I'm feeling? what might be going on? Do I need to move away, or I just sit and is okay? Or I go and ask if they need help, because sometimes it's the case, sometimes it's not the case. It's better you move away. But we need to tell children, you can deal with this thing, but you need to listen, you need to hear, you need to try to understand as much as you can, because it's a great ability to be empathic if you know what to do with the information that you get.
Right. And I think the information piece is one of my biggest lessons in recent years. If I go, Jesus, diagnosed with colorectal cancer at age 17, or if I deal with parents' divorce, or if I go through any litany of challenges, let's take those out. How about this one? Robert, it is Friday. It's 4th grade. It's spelling bee time. They gave Tanya the word school. They gave Francesca the word book. They gave Pamela the word car. Shel, they gave you the word bicycle. And they gave me the word encyclopedia. Okay, time out. Wait, what?
We laugh about it because we can relate to it.
Yeah, it's like, hold up. I'm activated in that moment, right? So now I'm looking at the apparent threat. Am I going to get a star on the wall because somehow that meant something back in the 70s to have that star? If nothing else, it meant I could get the treat on Friday, or I could get the certificate. And there was something about seeing people get their certificate. The story that I made up about it put me in survival mode. Forget family. I was in survival mode in school. Yeah. So now school became this threat to me, except for when there were assemblies, there was recess, and there was lunch. And quite frankly, before I walked into school and after the schools, those were my 5 best subjects. Everything else was threat management. How do I move through this? So, I'm clearer now that using that word information, the feedback that I was getting from an unregulated nervous perspective, I took it as instruction. Let me figure out what to do. Instruction versus recognizing feedback is just neutral. It's not positive or negative. It's not good, bad, right, or wrong. It lets me know what it is, and that's information. Regulated says there is nothing that I need to do. My system allows clarity to reveal itself versus me trying to manipulate clarity, right? So that's that piece for information. If we're talking about regulated and unregulated, information is regulated. Instruction based on feedback, or the interpretation of feedback as an instruction, that's unregulated. Every single time, across disciplines, across geographical experience, across ethnic experience, gender, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can see it, hear it, feel it, sense it.
And just from being a teacher for so many years prior to this, I just feel like just because you touched on that, I feel like because we never know who's listening, and even if it's off or not off, it's still linked to the nervous system and the regulation. Even what you expressed, it actually had nothing to do with your ability to pass that spelling test. So what immediately came to mind is when they say, oh, your page this, your page that, and you have to keep standing up and sitting down. Yes, there is an element of getting children prepared for public speaking, all different ways, but we need to be really, really mindful about how something is being carried out and responsible for the reactions we're noticing. Because deep down, the teacher also will know if there's certain things happening in their classroom that they're dreading happening. Well, why is that? Because there's something going on in the children that is making them act out. So I just think we just really, because they are our future generation, so we do need to think about all aspects of all the different public services that are on offer, because even down to comprehension, if I had to stand up, then you stand up, and it's the secret of who's next in order you should be following. We're laughing about it, and then they say, and then start asking you questions about the story. You're looking ahead just in case you're going to be picked, because you need to check if you know the words. Exactly. Comprehension is not even the priority. And then it's like, why are these children not comprehending? No. think about what you're asking the child to do and make sure they are safe. They feel safe first. And sometimes that takes 2 weeks to a month of game playing, which is a waste of time. No, it's not, because that child needs to say, in this classroom, these children are not going to laugh at me, and this woman, man, whoever is responsible for me, I feel safe and looked after by them. I don't feel like I'm going to be humiliated. I don't feel like I'm going to be picked on. And I used to do that. Because if they don't have that relationship with me, teaching, there's no point. There is, of course, but I mean, I'm not going to get their full capacity. No way.
Correct.
So thank you for highlighting. I know it was just an example, but I feel like sometimes there's a reason for everything that's shared.
Please, Francesca.
Oh, thank you. Just briefly, I have a 7 years old, bright, beautiful daughter, and we started homeschooling her, home educating in January. So we just took her out of school for Christmas. She initiated it. She wanted it. And we did it for her. We are doing it for her. And her reaction to we do math was crying. So the first day, the evening before, I told her, look, tomorrow we do math and English. And then in the morning, she asked me, what are we starting with? And I said, but wait, listen. And what I wanted to say was, we start with math. So when you need a break, because I knew that I had the feeling that math was a bit more difficult for her. When you need a break, we have a break, we move to English, and then we go back to math. I said the word math, she started crying. Yeah. And I was like, Tesoro, but this is how you used to feel every time in class when there was math. It was, Mamma mia, that has to be a nightmare to be, I believe it. If every time someone says math, you start crying or feel like crying, because I don't think she was crying in class because I would have been told. But with me, she showed what she was feeling. I was, oh my gosh. And we are just slowly rewiring. And you know, when they say, when you can explain something to someone else, you know it. Now I tell her, I explain something. And then she likes on the whiteboard that we have, she pretends I'm the student with her stuffed animals or dogs, and she teaches me. And it's great. And I understand that in a class they are 20. I'm not saying that is doable, but you need to find the way that is the best for each child. If you want to follow the potential of each child, you need to listen to the way of each child, because they are all different. And I don't know what is the solution, what is the new school solution, but
and that's absolutely what
doesn't work.
We're just having a very collaborative conversation here and just raising, if anything, that awareness, because even down to that, like, one word caused so much in her, but this could play into our relationships of, you know, we're having a conversation, someone has said one thing and you are so stuck and you've gone so far back to a memory and you're not even present in that conversation anymore. And this is why I think it's so important what we're discussing today. Woo, here comes the sun.
Right on time. There was, I provide leadership development a lot of times with high school youth. And there were two occasions, two quick stories. One, a group came in late, and it's a room of 200 and there were 8 of them that came in late. And I immediately said, the 8 of you, please come to the front of the room. And I could see, the 192, like, oh, I'm glad I got in my seat, right? Like, even people that hadn't spoken to their peers found a commonality, like, yay, we did the right thing. So I brought the 8 up and I simply asked, do you all acknowledge your tardiness? Heads were down and the audience is just like, oh, I'm glad I'm not up there. And they go, yes, Mr. P. I said, no, heads up. Do you own it? No heat, no judgment. And they were like, yeah. I said, great. Now, let me ask, what was going on with the 192 of you that you didn't know where these 8 were? Shifted the energy in the room so that now everybody understood the entire room was accountable and these 8 now felt safe. Because they weren't castigated, they were invited to acknowledge their tardiness without letting that result define who they were. And it put the room on notice that, hold up, there are 192 of us. Who could I have been to support even just one of the 8 in showing up on time.
Wow.
Because if one of us is late, we're all late. These 8 have parents. What do we say to the parents if these 8 don't show up? That 192 of you got in the chair, right? It's creating the safe space. And I think, Don, you were talking about that resonance. It's co-resonance that takes place. Whoever's vibrating at the highest, provided that they can hold that, the room has to align with that. Even if you don't want to, you end up vibrating at the highest frequency that is available. And I don't think there is a magic way or a new school way. Howard Gardner tried to capture it in the 90s with multiple intelligences to say people learn in different ways. But a lot of times what we miss out on is the educational system was really never about learning. It was only about presenting and instructing. We masked it as learning. But can you follow the guidelines? Can you give us back what we gave to you in exactly the same fashion? And then we'll say that you are qualified to matriculate. That's not the same as comprehension. That's not the same as mastery from an internal position. That's rote learning and rote memorization. I can give you formulas and principles back. And I've always said, I've been gifted to be around a lot of people with high degrees. They're some of the dumbest people in the world because they don't master their own integrity and their own beingness. And they prioritize, like school does, performance over presence. Our conversation here is about presence because a regulated nervous system is not about doing, it's about being.
I have something with that.
Yeah, please.
Thank you for sharing. I volunteer with preschoolers. There's 8 in the class, and what you had just said, it's magical how they go into the flow of the resonance. And if a couple of them are maybe off or not feeling well, that then they get to pick a song and then they vibrate high on that same frequency. So just seeing that for a 3-minute reset with the music or whatever to get them all on the same safe space playing field, it is lovely. I appreciate how the teacher does that.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's true. Anya, would you like to share anything on that?
I think anything that I have to say would be reiterating all of that, and those great points of how we affect our environments and how we can raise up everybody else around us by just being present and being there for people. And I really love, Robert, that you touched on that part of that presence versus the performance. And there's such a big gap that's being taught in that. And, I can speak from personal experience of having that lack of confidence when I was younger of, well, I'm not comprehending this. I'm not doing this, whatever it was in school, and not wanting to stand up and being painfully shy. And every conference was the same thing. Well, she's quiet. She doesn't take initiative. Well, for God's sakes, it wasn't a safe space. If I opened my mouth and it was the wrong thing, then I risked that being made fun of, or having a teacher who wasn't regulated as well, not meeting me where I was, like it was already said. And so there's so much that goes into it, and pulling that back into the conditioning and that layering and that deprogramming, it takes a lot to unwind as you start to become aware of that, as you're coming into maturity, to be able to realize that that's not the healthy state. That's not what feels good, and that's going to help you be a confident, successful adult in the world.
Absolutely. I think what you
and as we touched before on this, thank you, on the safe space, we already touched on it, and I like what we said before and what is coming up again here. I like to call it a brave space. When I do my sessions, I say this is a brave space, because I would like you to be brave, to come up with what you think and what you feel, And here there is no judgment. On this side, there is no judgment. So please be brave and listen and bring out what you feel and what you think. That's being brave. But the important thing is that you feel safe, as Tanya was saying, because you can have the wrong answer, but that's not the problem. You can be told, that's a point of view. Someone else has another point of view. That's an idea. Someone else has another idea. And no, that's not the answer. Someone else, next time I'm not raising my hand. If that's the wrong answer, you have the wrong answer. Next time, I don't try again. So exactly, brave space and safe space. So beautiful.
Yeah, and I think equally, if someone is doing that, we take responsibility as well, because we aren't in charge of other people's reactions and responses and behaviors. So, as much as we have things that happen to us, there will still be those people that come, and they are the only truth, and they are the only one, right? And again, that's our ownership. It's our self-regulation. And something that Tanya, you mentioned as well, that I just felt like, not the opposite, but because you were saying you were very quiet, whereas I was the opposite in the sense of I felt very uncomfortable with the quiet. But I think not necessarily what the external is. What you really touched on, which I thought was powerful, was the internal. Because that was something on me, no one else. That I used to, if you like, try to bring my frequency up or fill the space and entertain, because I felt uncomfortable. And I think sometimes, again, children can be classed as good for being quiet, which again, we have to really be very conscious of. So there's so many, I just thought it's good to always get the different perspective of everything, because it's personal to the person and the individual child and the environment and the situation. So just that we're really thinking, often it's a very internal thing, I think.
Well, even the shy and the discomfort, you use uncomfortable, for me, that is unregulated nervous system protection.
Yeah.
Right? That's so when I say threat management, okay, hold up. Like, you're going to keep calling me out or embarrassing me. So now in the next moment where they say, okay, everybody open your book, and this is where the teacher assigns people to read paragraphs, right? Like what's offered. Now I'm reading ahead so that I can make sure I can say the word encyclopedia and I can't. Now I'm panicked because I can't pronounce and it's coming to me. There's a ticking time clock. I am so far removed from regulation. And for me to say, I don't feel comfortable saying this, or how about this one? Can you please pronounce this word for me? I'll repeat it, but I don't even want to make an attempt. You pronounce it, but if the space doesn't allow for that, even if other peers laugh, it's if the teacher, right, the authority figure, one, doesn't usurp my inner authority, but aligns with it, so I retain mine, they retain theirs, and then they're open and available to support me in this moment, it builds momentum. But if I need to protect myself in a classroom, then I may feel uncomfortable. You shall result it to laughter. That's what got me sent to the principal's office. In elementary school, if you wanted to know what day of the week it was, if you saw me at the principal's office, it was probably Friday.
to get out of the situation.
I didn't possess the capacity to be right and good for an entire 5 days. By the time we got to Wednesday, I was almost at the edge of it. Thursday, I was peak. Friday was all hell broke loose day, because what I was saying was, I need this container to expand. As a Piscean, you have me swimming in a goldfish. I need to be in the ocean. So can we expand this, shift it, make it different? But when I was met with no, like you, Tanya, I resulted to, I would say, arrogant shyness, because I knew it was, the face. That's the arrogance. Like, I'm good. No, I pass. I choose not to read. Like, it was me choosing to defend and protect myself until I could get out of that classroom, until I could get out of that experience. The only problem was I never knew how to regulate myself moving between classes. So then I amplified the unregulated posturing and the questions, do something now, right? That's what unregulated says. Do something or fix this immediately. But regulated says, hold up, let me breathe, let me take a break, let me calm down, and the right action will emerge, whatever that is. And a lot of times that didn't come up, so it was easy to hide behind being shy or being abrupt and annoying.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that... Sorry, go on, darling. Yeah.
No, please, Shel.
No, I was just wondering how much of that unconsciously feeds into our relationships as we get older, because it is a slight, well, not even slight, but like, obviously this is just my perspective of it, of self-sabotaging, because it's almost like I can't deal with this right now. And even if that's not going to surface because of a prior experience, like the teacher might have changed the whole layout, but you're so stuck on how you felt, and it's like abort that you might go really too inwards, or you are like, I am going to get out of this situation whatever it costs now, and you know, like to even put yourself in that situation of being in the principal's office was better than just the thought of going through that again. And it just, again, it doesn't mean that, but I just wonder how that potentially played, not just saying your example, but I'm just thinking about things that we've all done, of how, because it doesn't always show up the same, of how that has played into other aspects of our life, of we feel something, boom, because we just are like, get me out of this now, and we think we're in control. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing, but do we? Because we are just, as you say, almost so unregulated. Reacting. We don't really care about the outcome, and obviously we hope that we recognize that, and hopefully this is highlighting it to people. But yeah, I don't know, it just came to my mind. It's just very interesting to think about that.
And I think also what Pruitt was saying about the school, it brings up again the importance of a pause. And if you want, what I haven't found a better terminology, what is active meditation? The situations, the fact that life takes us to not being regulated and then exploding, as Shel said, sometimes is that we don't take pauses between classes or between our roles in life. We are a childminder now, and we already think about when you are a mother. So now in 1 hour, in 1 hour, I'm a mother. So you start doing the childminding, thinking about when you will be a mother. That's right. And then you start being a mother, thinking about when you are a wife and a mother, and you need to cook. And you are never present in what you do, because you plan the future while you do the step before. And when you do the step that you just planned, you are planning the next one. And you are never present, and then it becomes too much, because you never give time to for things to settle in you. You are always running and chasing and running and doing something now, thinking about the next thing. And a very good practice is, between roles, sit 5 minutes with a cup of tea in your hands and just be, and just think. Instead of what's going on next, take 2 minutes to think about the things that you did great as a childminder, then take 30 seconds, 1 minute to be, and then start thinking about the next, and then move and act. If we don't pause between classes in school, if we don't pause between our 100 roles that we all have in our lives, then we explode. Yes. So again, the importance of pause.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I love that, that present time consciousness as the way of regulating our nervous systems. Because if you're thinking of what's coming up in the future, or you're reflecting on the past, you're not present, and you can really mitigate a lot of stress by, coming into awareness of those simple things. And even as you're cooking, right, how does the handle of the spoon feel in your hand, right? And what are the aromas of just bringing little bits of that present time consciousness into everyday moments, I think is so powerful. Yet we also have to balance that with reflecting on lessons from the past, where we want to grow, where that growth edge is, and then also what we need to plan ahead to be successful, right? Of, oh, I've got to set the alarm for this time, whatever that is, but of being able to set a time, set aside time, like you said, Francesca, to be able just to go quiet within and just be with yourself. And another thing that, you know, it isn't taught in our society and in culture, and that you just keep going from one thing to another, because that's how you're going to climb the ladder of whatever success that is.
Yes.
Yes.
And please know, this is for anyone listening, where you take what, you know, both Pamela and Francesca are offering about this moment, whether it's with tea or without. There may be a period in there where it feels unsettling.
Yeah.
So, you know, the best way for me to frame it is if you had a clear glass that had dirt in it and you poured water in it, right? Some of that dirt is going to start to rise to the top. And if I'm trying to look through, I'm not going to be able to. Well, all the stuff that's moving around are all the corresponding thoughts. Because the nervous system, again, if it is unregulated and is used to being in active threat management mode, it's looking in this and judging it. I don't have time for this. This isn't going to help me complete that. While I'm doing these 5 minutes, I could have been 5 minutes ahead on dinner, or 5 minutes ahead on the next contract, or, you know, getting my clothes laid out for the big meeting or whatever it is. So to be mindful that the array of thoughts and feelings are a part of it. And all of that dirt, at some point in time, it settles. And when it settles, then there's clarity. Why would you want to move when there's no clarity? So then what becomes the priority? The performative action or the presence and stability? And clarity only comes with presence. It doesn't come through being in active drive mode. Never does. So just be mindful. Take the cup of tea, take the 5 minutes, notice all the stuff that is coming to the top. And one of the statements that I offer is, I am meeting a pattern without reenacting it. So if you go, well, I can't do 5 minutes, I can do 3, but the minute I get into the meditation and I feel the tea, I don't even finish the tea because my mind is wandering, then all of a sudden I get up. That's a pattern. So you can meet it without reenacting it, which says, instead of getting up, all I'm going to say is I'm meeting a pattern without reenacting it. That's it. Notice I didn't say what to do after that. I didn't even suggest a thing to do after it. Just to simply acknowledge it is enough for the pattern to dissipate and for some of that silt to settle. And then over time, the 5 minutes becomes manageable. The 5 minutes becomes 10. I remember my wife couldn't take baths. She would get in, 7 minutes later, she was like, Robert! Robert! And I'm like, yes, baby. She was like, I can't. Like, she visibly was shaken. Can I tell you, 45 minutes? And she's like, okay, that's right, another 10. It's building capacity, and I think that's the critical thing for people to take away, at least for me, is that if we're talking about regulating our nervous system, we're talking about building capacity. So you may have a moment where you're pumping 5-pound weights, and then you shift to 15. Well, you may be able to get it up, but not at the same frequency that you did the 5 until you build the capacity. And then lifting in them is very different than holding it. So sometimes in our interpersonal struggles, we go, how long am I going to have to deal with this as a parent? I know that's what I put my parents through. All the letters I got sent home. How long? What they're really saying is, do I possess the capacity to hold love?
Yeah.
And I'm being stretched and I'm being guided, and that is part of this experience. Again, whether it's a cup of tea for 5 minutes, or whether it's sitting in lotus style, or whether it's taking a bath, or whether it's headphones with a pure tone, it doesn't matter. It is going to bring you to the edge of capacity and then begin to stretch it.
I think that's the beauty as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so beautiful. I think, and the beauty of that is you get to take ownership of what that looks like for you.
That's right.
Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful conversation. Of course, if anything is coming up for anyone that you feel like the listeners would really benefit from hearing right now, please share. I know you've got your course coming up in March, which is an extension, which is perfectly linked to the nervous system. So for anyone that's listening right now that would, again, love to really be in that energy again of these incredible speakers, and Pruitt will be discussing all about the nervous system, which is going to be incredible. Please feel free to share that.
Well, in short, it won't be a discussion. It is a guided experience.
Yeah, sorry. I'm fine. I know what you meant by it. I just wanted to make sure, because then people will come with pen and paper because they want to intellectualize it. It's not what it's. Yeah.
So the best way for me to say it is, if you recall the old radio stations, or riding in your car and your favorite song was on and you were trying to get it and it was in between stations. It's the static in our living experience, or our lived experience, that blocks the signal, that source.
Oof.
Right? So
I think that just sold itself, everyone. So go to the link. You're going to have an experience, let's put it that way.
That's
but
it.
It's beautifully said. It's beautifully and very simply said. And then behind there is
but isn't
so
this
much.
the power of words?
Just tune the radio.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh, you try.
Yes. But this is the power, isn't it, of visual examples and words?
Yes.
Is you have
Absolutely,
such
absolutely.
an experience just in how someone communicates something. It's powerful.
But also, I think this goes back to teaching and indoctrination. You can't learn something because someone speaks to you. You can't read a book and learn. You need to find your way. Each of us has a way of being parent, of being self-regulated, of being a mother, of being a teacher. I don't teach solutions. When I teach parenting, I don't teach parenting. I do coaching. I do life coaching, parenting coaching. So I give you the knowledge of the brain science and the emotional regulation, but that you can get it also from a book. I'm not a book. I'm not here to read you a book. I'm here for you to tell me what comes up for you and lead you and push you a bit, so that you find your way of finding your recipe, because each of us has a perfect recipe and we should aim for it in anything we do, without thinking that we are going to get to the perfect recipe.
Yeah.
No one is going to be a perfect parent, and it's not what we should aim for. We should want, but we should aim for it. And we should know when a good recipe is a good recipe, even if it's not a perfect one. But that's what we need. We need to talk about things. We need to be inspired. We need to be a bit led by those who lean in our specialities, and that's what we are doing. We have something. We five here. Sorry, I can see Pamela. Sorry, we five here. We found something that we really believe and feel, and we want to give with it.
Yeah.
And that's what we are doing here, and that's what we all should do. I think if each of us found their own small thing and make it the thing, we would make a world a better place. You know, Shel, I think we are making the world a better place little by little.
Well, that's the thing, isn't that? And it's not on anyone, but I think there's so much of this, and if you conditional again, we want to give the power back to everyone. Yes, sometimes that takes some coaching, that takes some mentoring, that takes some guiding, that takes some self-initiation to activate it. But essentially, you are the one that needs to take control of your life, because you can't just always call that person. Yes, I know some people do, but how much more empowering is it when you find that master key? And that's what we want. And sadly, not everywhere, but that's what we were told not to seek. And that's why we're doing that beautiful unlearning, and we're all still on our journeys, showing up every day. And you know, no one truly has the answer, but we also do have the answers within. Everybody does. So wow. I hope this was a lovely part of your birthday, Prue.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you, all of you. It's once again been such an incredible, powerful discussion. I appreciate you all so much. And if there's anything you feel like the audience listening right now would benefit from hearing, it doesn't have to be with the nervous system, feel free to share it before we conclude this beautiful session.
I would like to say thank you, and I'm sorry my Wi-Fi keeps dropping. So I'm vacationing with my computer and it's not working very well. So I'm sorry again about that.
Pamela, just so you know, mine went on a vacation to the laptop shop, so I can really relate. I felt like something was really missing. So we feel your presence, and we're so thankful for being a part of this. And lots of blessings to your laptop.
Thank you.
And you, of course.
And to all of you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for all of you for this amazing conversation. I love all of these things that have come up, and as we are lighthouses for others and showing the way in that leadership by giving permission, showing up and doing the work, as messy as it is, that I think it is so important that we continue to do this. So Shel, thank you for providing the space for this conversation and all that you do in your movement. I am so grateful for that. And for anybody listening who has resonated with that nervous system regulation conversation that we've been having, I do have a 5-part private podcast that especially geared for midlife women. But if you're not a midlife woman, you will still get benefit out of it, as there's universal themes throughout that, but really a way to hear how other women experience things, how that different things that come up in midlife, and then also some reflection prompts to help get those wheels turning. And especially if this is a brand new topic that you're just coming into, it's a great way to just put your earbuds in, go for a walk, listen to it when you're doing house chores or whatnot, without making it a big commitment. And you can find it on my website. It's Back to You podcast. And Shel, I think you've got the link for that as well.
Absolutely. Everything's going to be put in the description and the comments. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome.
No, thank you, Shel, for again your authentic light. It's a joy to be in conversation with you. And so my prayer is that wherever this frequency goes, that it really does impact and light paths. I've been on in enough experiences similar to this, but very few resonate as a giving versus self-promotion. So blessings to all that you are giving birth to. And what I would leave anyone listening and watching now is what a therapist left with me years ago. Be gentle with yourself.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Shel, for this space again. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
It's the magic that Zest is in.